organised way.
I wondered what to get you for Christmas, hey?
I'm criminal. I always add too much in, and he'll just mute everything.
Yeah.
But that's fine, because at least there's more ideas there to like later on in the song.
That's a good balance to have, though, to be fair.
And started making stuff for like Cheryl Cole, Sugar Babes, things like that. When that sort of route, around that time, we did like Tiny Temper, Skepta. When Hayden came in, we did a lot of Skepta stuff, his early stuff.
I don't have the facilities to be able to pull that off.
I don't know, mate.
But
Hayden can teach you a few moves.
But like,
had some success there, and he showed us these songs and these videos, and we were just like, "What is this?
Blew our mind, yeah.
What is this?"
Wow, channels we sing and
crazy.
stuff like that. So.
Can you build one for like burning stems?
Yeah,
that.
Well, I think that's going to be for stuff like that. I mean, I've been talking to Ego about this, but kind of like an AI tool for like session setup.
Yeah.
You know, for stuff like that, where it's like, okay, here's my template. Label all my tracks for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then when it comes to bounce stuff, just bounce it in order how I want it.
There was a
put it in
company that was
folders.
sort of doing it, but they didn't quite make it through.
Bounce Butler.
Nah,
which
there
is-
was a
which-
different. There was a different.
yeah,
one.
we
looked at that.
Stem
It wasn't-
port.
No.
Okay.
I think they ended up going, but they did nail it because I was using their product. I really liked it. But I don't
Really?
think
Because you
they're
use
quite-
Logic too, right?
Yeah.
And
But
Logic's a pain. We
the
find it
best
a
way
pain.
to do it, right, is to get, you see those Steam Deck pads, you know, the button pads.
Yeah.
Ain't seen
Stream
them,
Deck.
no.
Stream Deck, that's
Deck,
it,
I
yeah.
know, yeah.
You get one of them, and then you can basically set a command chain. So you do the whole bounce system once, right? And you teach it to this button, right? And then when you want to bounce your stems, you just press the button, it does it all for you and puts it in a folder.
But how does it do that with like buses? Because half the time we've got stuff going through buses
So
and then
you can. So what you do is you go open up your Logic, the bus setup, you highlight those tracks, create track. So then it's those buses are now actual tracks on the page, and they'll print with
Okay.
it.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's the best way of doing it. I can
You
show
have
you.
to show us that,
Yeah,
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 I'm
that'd be
down.
a game changer.
Yeah,
Because that's another thing why it just is so time consuming
Yeah.
when people want stems for stuff, especially if they want stems of the original version and then the version 5 edit, and you're just like, and you got to print them manually because of the bus.
Yeah, so you can even
that is like a
program that in.
Logic thing.
Yeah, it's a
isn't
Logic
it?
thing. Yeah, Pro
It's
Tools
really
is
weird.
fine. Like you just go click.
Yeah, no. So it is really easy. And the reason why Pro Tools does it, because Pro Tools actually creates tracks for those buses.
Right.
Logic just likes to keep everything quite clean and simple.
Right.
So you have to tell it to make it a track on your editing page,
Okay, so it's quite-
and then it will print. It's really easy. So then like when you open the stem, you'll just have your aux 1, and then if you label it properly, like delay 1/4, and it will just be that delay playing, like not anything else. So then they can even remix those auxiliaries however they want.
But what if you've got, say you've got something, say you've got on a bus, like we'll often have multiple plugins, right? Like it could be saturation or whatever. Like what does it do with that?
It will print those. It will print anything that's got the plugin directly on, and then so it just acts as like another track basically, and anything that's being run through
And will
that.
it level in the same?
Well, that depends on how you.
Yeah, because that's the other challenge.
Yeah.
So when you do your export, you can hit like normalize, and it will flatten everything.
Yeah.
Or you do print volume and automation as well,
Ah,
and it will
okay.
give you the levels and everything. So
Oh, mate, you need
I'll
to
show
come
you
down
my
and give us a tutorial,
setup,
yeah.
because I the way I bounce my stems, because basically part of like the service that I do is
Mixed stems.
I will give the mixed stems, right? I don't give my projects because that's my own IP.
Of course, yeah.
But
yeah.
like the mixed stems, and then no one ever has any issues with it. Sometimes I'm like, bloody hell, this looks confusing, and I'm like, that's because the project's big and there's a lot of stuff going on, right? So that you need to know it, and these guys think they're going to open up like a couple of drums and whatever.
Yeah.
But so that's the best way of doing it. But I do 2 different versions. So I do my, so officially the stems is actually just like the groups of stuff. Right. So it's like the drums, the bass, all the other instruments, and the vocals, and maybe BVs and stuff like that. And then track outs is everything.
Okay.
So and like Americans are better at using that terminology. We seem to just use stem for everything. But they're 2 different things.
Yeah.
So and that's how you want to how you want to like give it to people, because then you have like 2 different options. So they can have like just a rough look at it where it's just a handful of stems, and then they have like the full project. And if you get one of these decks, you can literally just press a button and it will just do it all for you. Like
great.
Yeah, it is easy. It's just, you know, it's making your life more simple, you know. But someone will bring a tool out that just does it within the door soon.
That sounds more my
I think, if
anyone does, 10%.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I threw the idea out. So.
yeah. We all get a cut. No, but I think, things like that of just like, there's so much just admin around, you know, like setting up sessions and stuff like that. And I talk to like big mix engineers, and they always have assistants, because the assistants are just there every day setting up sessions.
You wouldn't have any time to do any mixing. You didn't have assistants. I rely on my guy. He does everything, that takes out all the breaths, organises all the projects into the way that I want it to be, my mix template that I have. And if I didn't have that, I'll spend all my time just organising these massively unorganised stems.
And the time you, like, probably the same as production, right? The time you do that, your brain's a bit tired, or your ears are tired. Do you know what I mean? Because you've been focusing on one thing, and then when you get to that, what you're good at or what you're paid to do, you can't do it properly.
Yeah, exactly. But I can't believe it's not already sort of like been improved, but it will be improved. And but there is ways of doing it that are better, and it's the reason why I think obviously people have so many different preferences of how they like their projects to be sent, saved, organised, and managed. Yeah. Like I do a 1-to-1 course. It's the first lesson I teach, project management. Yeah. Because if you don't understand project management, you're never going to be able to mix, because you need to be able to. But you need to be able to approach it in like such a clean, organised way.
I wondered what to get you for Christmas, Hayden.
But how does that work with your guys' session? Is it because I was. You get lots of like songwriting duos, production duos, but then I was like, well, how does that actually work? Like, who's got the mouse? Like, how does that work?
We've both got access to the same like Dropbox folder. We've all got the same exactly. Our computers are clones of each other, so it's just like he'll open up my project, I'll open up his project. Some days I'll hear stuff that he doesn't hear, or like I'll start a beat and go, this is terrible, I'm just going to bin it. It'll be like, whoa, like this. There's some.
We used to give you like a guide. So we've got 2 studios at our place, and then a lot of the time we'll just work separately and create. If we're creating for a project, we'll just work on ideas together, and then sort of like, I've thrown some ideas there. What do you think of that? And then when we're doing writing sessions with top liners, are we rolling, by the way?
Yeah.
I'll start that again then. Yeah. So a lot of the time, if we're doing writing sessions, we work together. So then we'll work in the room with the writer, and then like figure it out together and create a vibe like that. But for day-to-day stuff, a lot of the time we're just making, because just to be efficient, there's 2 of us, so we might as well, we learn early on.
Smash out the ideas, and
exactly.
Then you go through each other's ideas and see how you can improve it.
Exactly, you've got to be fast these days, you know what I mean? Like going back to that efficiency thing about what you said, it's like, for us, it's like we need the more content or the more tracks we've got, the more ideas we've got, we can whittle, 20 ideas down into the best 10 or the best 5, you know, rather than focusing. We used to spend time really focusing on like one track or like going in on different edits, and it's like, I don't think you need to do that these days.
Even sound selection is like, we
can improve it afterwards.
But we like to get the skeleton down, and like we can always improve. Like I'm criminal. I always add too much in, and he'll just mute everything. Yeah, but that's fine, because at least there's more ideas there to like later on in the song.
That's a good balance to have, though. To be fair, like someone that's because there is magic in like over a production sometimes.
100%.
You can even get like whole new ideas out of that stuff.
Yeah, of course. Exactly.
But having someone there to back you up and be like, because that's to me, there's some of the at the moment anyway. All of these big records, the production's always so simple.
Well, I've always admired like the Swedes, right? The way that they do it, everything just sounds so clean. There's hardly any reverb, but everything just sounds perfect. And it's like I've always loved their production, from like obviously Max Martin, Stargate, all of those guys. And but so when we kind of produce, or especially when Hayden, when he produces, he'll throw loads of stuff, loads of paint at the canvas, and then sometimes it's great and it works, but other times I'll come in and I'll hear like the frequencies clashing, or like the pockets or the grooves or whatever. So I can really help that way. And then other times I could start a production, and he might add those bits of magic, or like, you know, little reverb, atmosphere, vocal, or just like distorted things that kind of make it cooler or more like Kanye-esque or something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Whereas
Wow,
like if it was just me, no, but it's true.
Big compliment.
Well, yeah.
Whereas
Say again?
I can be more sort of clean and sort of precise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's why our balance
you
works
guys
well.
complement each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you two meet?
I'll let you tell that story.
Yeah, so I've got an older brother that they had a mutual friend,
Right.
and my brother said, I've got a friend who's like,
But basically,
Hayden
going back to
music.
that conversation we
Yeah.
had,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
if you know someone in music,
Yeah.
oh, my mate does music, you should meet him.
my little brother, and I was just like, okay, this is never going to work, but we'll try it. So I was just ripping off all these songs from the garage days on Fruity Loops, chopping them up, trying to sound like him. And then, he heard some like ideas was doing and that, and then he invited me down to his studio and gave me
Right.
boring
So
jobs.
you was sort of more established.
Yeah,
at the
so
beginning, right?
I was already doing. I started out making UK garage,
Right.
so like DJing, and then got into producing.
What
making,
sort of era are we talking? Talking like two-step, sort of like.
Yeah, 2000s, 2001's when I first had my first release in 2001. I did a big song called Decoy, a big garage song.
Yeah.
And it was like EZ was playing it, all the Heartless Crew, all of that sort of people. So I had a really good run of like remixes, putting records out, started my own label. I was like 20 at the time, didn't really know what I was doing.
What was the name you were working under?
Agent X was the
Agent
name,
X.
yeah. And then I did that for a long time. And then when kind of like the MC stuff and Grime, when it started to go sort of a bit darker and a bit more into this UK hip hop sort of what we have today.
So solid and all
Yeah,
that.
and obviously with MP3s and everything else, there was just a decline in sales, a decline in being able to manage the label and everything else. So
Was you doing like dub plates and stuff?
yeah, was doing
Yeah.
all of that stuff. I was producing, printing, like pressing vinyls, doing dubs, everything like that.
Awesome.
Running a business, and I worked at a record shop in Caledonian Road actually called
Right.
Planet Fats. I was managed that for a little bit, and it was a good learning curve because they had DJ Luck, MC Neat. They had a label called Red Rose, and they had a studio underneath the shop. So when I'd close up the shop, I'd go downstairs and sort of learn, and that's how I kind of learnt my trade. I'd just stay in there for like 10, 12 hours on desks like this, not even knowing what I was
Well, yeah.
to do. But eventually I got something out of it. And then I had a good run with the garage stuff and everything else. And then obviously once you sort of get into that, you kind of realise what songs mean.
Yeah.
Because I think initially when you're young and clubbing, you just want to feel something. So you're just feeling like, you know, whether it's drum and bass, like garage, house, or whatever, you're just into it. And then as you develop as a producer and a songwriter, you get interested in the song more and the development of that.
Yeah.
So once I've
the
got
structure
the
and how
yeah.
it makes you feel and stuff like that, rather than just the impact.
Exactly. So when that kind of took a bit of a downturn, I was looking for other things, went UK funky and stuff like that, and then got to more in the songwriting zone, and started making stuff for like Cheryl Cole, Sugar Babes, things like that. When that sort of route, and then that's the sort of time when you came down, wasn't it? Like around that time, we did like Tiny
Right.
Temper, Skepta. When
Yeah.
Hayden came in, we did a lot of Skepta stuff, his early stuff, and then.
What were some of the Skepta joints?
Well, the first one you did was Bad Boy, wasn't it? With
Yeah,
us,
Bad Boy.
One Bad Boy, and then we did one called Rescue Me, which was
That's the album. Oh, what's the album called?
it's his something like Greatest Hits or something.
Yeah.
Which
And he's
is-
like squatting down.
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the cover. Yeah, I remember it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
so-
wow, you guys made those? I didn't actually know that.
Yeah. So we did that
When I was
stuff.
when I was at school, they were getting banked all day.
Yeah, thanks, man. I mean, it was like his kind of first foray into sort of chart success as well.
Yeah, that's what I was
because those
saying.
stuff-
That's like that. It took him.
It was
up
a transition.
to that commercial sort
Exactly.
of level. Yeah.
Because at that time it was like Tiny Temper and Tinchy Strider and stuff, right? Constantly hitting. So all the rappers at that time was like, we can't just make. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it was a weird period, to be fair, because
Very
it was
weird.
like everyone was so underground,
Yeah.
and like the music would never get on the radio, and then there was just like this flip where it was like a handful of the guys just like totally like managed to like pull some sort of commercial sound. Obviously, you guys being
Yeah.
part of that. Do you know what I mean? What was it? So what was the inspiration? I'm sorry, because I get kind of interested on this, because it's something that I've thought about quite a lot in that period, because it's what I was growing up, and it's like when I was like really getting into music. You know, what was the sort of like inspiration when you say, okay, I'm tackling these rappers, this is what they have come from, grime, not, you know, was like, you know, you took esky dance and all this stuff, that's not commercial stuff at all. How do you approach like turning that into a commercial record? Because it was balanced, because it still felt like grime, but it didn't at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know really. I think it was just the way that the scene was at that time. If you wanted to progress as an artist, you had to sort of follow that route. And Fraser T. Smith and like Tinchy and all that stuff, they set the blueprint for that. N-Dubs were doing stuff as well. So I think those rappers were just looking like thinking, well, I can't stay doing grime. Like we can do shows doing Sidewinder or do like things, but there wasn't like it is now. There's festivals, they earn a lot of money just staying underground. But we never had that. So it was like, if you want to actually make a living out of music, you need to chart. You need to be a top 40 artist or a top 20 artist. And it was the same for us as songwriters. You know, I couldn't rely on selling 3,000 or 5,000 vinyl every month and making like quick money. It was like, okay, I need to get royalties. I need to get PRS. I need to like, how can I expand and grow?
That's
and
interesting.
then, and it was like, I guess like that, with plus the influence from the US and what, you know, we tend to follow them and their sort of blueprint. I don't think we do so much now, but back then we certainly used to.
Do you think that because the industry slightly changed now, and obviously it's all about streaming and you can listen to as much music as you want whenever you want, do you think that's why, because the rap scene sort of almost felt like it went backwards and fell away from that commercial route and said, do you know what, actually we're just going to stick to doing this, and now it's like created their own another path away.
What do you
from
mean?
it.
You mean in terms of like drill and stuff? Or?
Yeah, because then drill obviously came back, and now when you look at like artists like
I mean, there's some really corny records that people released around that time. I see one on Instagram the other day of Kano singing like an auto-tune song, and I don't even I sort of half remember
that,
it.
man. Yeah,
do you remember, you know,
that
like,
is wild.
Yeah, and it was like, and I remember Skepta had one as well with like Priya
sort of
Khalidis, a girl from EastEnders, and you look back and you think, what? How did they?
Yeah, what was going
so
on?
So they're kind of like those guys are kind of fortunate that like the second wave of grime came and they was allowed to kind of reinvent themselves.
Well, it was.
Do you know what I mean?
I think it was wearing my Rolex was my. That was my perception at the time. Was that tune just went so big, and it was like a kind of a house tune, really, with that those synth sounds that were really big at the time, and then everyone was like, "Oh man, Wiley's charting and he's okay. We need to stop what we're doing and try and figure this out."
Bonkers as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, Dizzy's probably the person who's kind of always had it under control, isn't he? But I think with other people. Yeah. I mean, that Kano.
But you know what's weird about Dizzy is like he doesn't have the underground respect that I feel like some of the others do now, which is really strange because he was the rawest artist.
It's because he didn't ever go back and do.
Do you think?
Yeah,
you think he just always.
He didn't do Boy in the Corner again.
Yeah.
All these other artists, like you look at Konnichiwa.
Yeah.
That was like going right back to grime.
True.
Right back to the roots. Wiley did it with what was it? It was Funfair or something.
Okay.
It was something like that. It was like it was another record that
Wiley's always been able.
Bowie Free and all that.
Yeah, and it was like his with the tattoo on the neck. It was a side profile front cover, I remember. But so they all did that and jumped back on it. You know, when obviously the resurgence of like the new era of rappers came out, like AJ, Stormzy, those guys. So they were like, oh, actually, fucking hell, we can do this again. But those guys all respected him, so they gave him an opportunity to jump on the tube.
I think you're right. I think it was the new wave of underground artists that was like, oh, okay, like I can work with you, like one of my heroes, like let's do that. So that gave it like, you know, credibility.
That's definitely what it was. I was quite lucky because I was sort of my first entrance to the scene was right at the beginning of that, and I got hired by this company called Relentless to run their music studio.
Shabs.
And no, that's the label. So I don't work with them, but this is the energy drink.
Oh,
right?
And
they had a free music studio, and they just invited all of the grime guys down there. So I remember my first ever session. I lied and said I was an engineer. I wasn't.
Just blagged it.
And it was with
You're still doing that, aren't you?
Yeah. It was with Gets, Kano and Deneo. And it was like everyone was there. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? But like, it was great because it was like this new sort of spark. Do you know what I mean? And then everyone was circulating back around. And grime felt like, you know, what it felt like on the underground. But
Yes.
like, because it's almost like I see those albums as like different periods. You know what I mean? They're great music in their own right and had commercial success. But it did feel like it was like it almost felt like they were forced into it, like because like what you were
100%.
saying, because they had to make dough.
It's one of them things, like you have like highs and lows within music, right? And it's probably been the same for the US guys as well, like Nas or Jay-Z. They've had moments where they've stayed true to themselves, and then they've had moments where they've had to get a feature in. They've had to put, you know, make a commercial song. And it's like, it just depends how accepting the public is at the time, and like where they want you to go. It kind of it's very difficult to stay completely true to what you love and do.
Yeah.
I mean, our musical journey, for example, we've gone from dance music, garage, pop music. We've done Disney shows. We've done like loads of stuff. And for the last 10 years, we've been huge K-pop writers. So we've taken a turn to like, and we love it. We love the journey where it's taken us. But like,
You just got to diversify, haven't you? You have to. That's the way of the world now, with social media, with everything. You have to diversify.
Yeah, well, it's very true, because like what you say, because I've met you guys like obviously later on in your K-pop moment, and that's sort of how we met, and you know that we've done a record already together.
Yeah.
But the when you said, "Oh, Skepta," I would have never ever thought that. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, there's
So
a
it's
big.
like,
Everyone's got a journey, right?
yeah,
Everyone's
I
got-
think that's really great. Though. Well, but I'd have to say I've not heard as many that is diversified as much as what you guys are saying. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's funny because you probably know him, a friend of mine, Kev Majestic.
Yeah,
and
he's another one.
Yeah, and he's
Yeah.
done the same thing, which is like we used to play in a rock band together.
Oh, really?
You know, do battle of the bands and stuff like that, and like he'll probably tell me to cut that out, but you know, you know.
No,
But I think sometimes what people don't realise is if you're a musical person, you know, if you play instruments, you listen to everything, and you just, you know, you're not. It's kind of the industry is like, this is your image, this is your box. And you have to be like a pure
100%,
this
mate.
thing, but it's like really no one's like that.
No. I mean, it goes back to what you listened to growing up, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you playing your parents' records or CDs or whatever, like you go from anything from my dad listened to like The Who or like Stevie Wonder, or you know, like, and you've had a similar similar thing, like you know,
Jazz, George Benson,
all of that kind of stuff. So you go through like a melting pot of all these musical experiences, and then when you get to a sort of teenager, you get exposed to like dance music, especially in like Britain, right? Like we're so multicultural, and we have such a great underground scene. Like nobody does it like us, right? All the genres that we're capable of producing, and that just then you kind of find your own feeling. Like for me, it was like drum and bass, jungle, and then like I say, my sister be banging out like hardcore or whatever. You know what I mean? And at the time, you don't even realise all that stuff's like sampled from like hip hop, or it's sampled from. So like, you are really exposed to it like at an early age, and I think that reflects certainly in our musical style.
100%.
Yeah, you guys have definitely embodied a lot of like the UK music culture, and like obviously you've had a journey through that. Where was your sort of like initial start to it? Like, what was your like first genre that you were sort of making music in?
Mine was the house and garage. I used to DJ down in loads of clubs and stuff like that. So I was around that kind of playing house, playing old school classics and all that. And it wasn't until, like Greg said earlier, I was like, how can I like mash up songs and then get a reaction from crowds? And then I was like, I'm going to make my own song, but use a vocal people know. And that got me into like making house music. And then it was the garage stuff, but I never knew nothing about arrangement.
Right.
So that's when I come in with you. Greg was like, this is great, but it's 5 minutes of like the sameness.
Yeah.
There's no like arrangement. So like house, like garage and house that's my bread and butter. That's where I started. But as Greg was saying, like there's so many influences that I'm only really tapping into now. Like from the jazz era with the K-pop stuff, we're allowed to experiment with that and explore that kind of jazz stuff. One day we're making jazz, one day we're making drum and bass, one day it's a ballad, one day it's hip hop. So like now all these things growing up that we've learned, we can finally put out music.
It's eclectic, and you're able to sort of like tap into all of those experiences.
Yeah, and K-pop allows us to do that, which is why we're so comfortable in that genre, and why we've had so much success in that genre, because we are able to use all of these influences, and because they're so open to doing that, you know, typically, like, it's changing a little bit. K-pop's becoming a bit more Western now anyway. And I think...
Feels like there's more of a hip-hop influence. When I remember, it
Yeah.
used to be a time I worked with someone and she was bang into it. She was like writing quite a lot about it just off her own back on the kind of on the side. And every tune, it felt to me, I'm no expert, but like there would be 4 genres on one tune.
There was.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
absolutely.
it would be this bit and then this bit and then this bit, whereas now it feels much more like
Yeah,
digestible.
yeah. And there's people out there who can really rap. You know, it's
mate.
not, you know, it's like
If you go back to the
levels
origins
are-
of like K-pop, it was all like b-boy 90s, like heavily. That was like the first kind of introduction of like, especially boy groups. It was like the b-boy with a big boom box on their shoulder, and it was a lot of like baggy jeans, baggy clothes,
Right, yeah,
dancing, like the choreography, the visuals, everything's so important out there.
Yeah, it seems like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
What would you say, like, is some of the defining features of K-pop? Because it's something to me, like, I know the genre, I listen to it, and I can obviously identify a K-pop song.
Yeah.
But, like, I wouldn't be able to analyze it to the depths that I could, like, most other genres. So what would you say is, like, sort of like the main elements of the genre?
I'd say first of all is, again, concept, like the title. Fans are drawn in by. They give you a reference for like what the lead single needs to look like, and so we take that as like, how's the CD cover going to look? How's the advertising going to look for it? Concept for us is...
It's not just the music with K-pop.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like it's their culture. It's everything. So when you're making a song, they're already thinking about how they're going to market it.
Yeah.
They're thinking about the visual. So when we make music, we're thinking about the MV. So we're thinking about the title and what the concept around that can look like, how they can package it, how they can do it, and that's the way that we've learned from what they do. They're not just making music and then being like, oh, let's think about all that later. It's
They
like,
make the song.
It's part of the,
exactly.
it's part of the conception. So I think it's constant excitement.
Yeah.
Elements of surprise.
Yeah. Just a great theme as well. Like when you got that theme, you can start using sound sources that relate to that theme. And
Right, yeah.
Is there a particular, like, BPM that you stick
Mate,
to?
it's all over
it's
the
all
shop.
over. Like you were
Really?
saying, we
Yeah.
can go from 140 and slow it down.
Yeah,
And then go back
yeah.
up to 140. Like it can be wherever. Singles, we always try and like, it's got to have tempo, obviously. So
Right.
the singles, majority of the time, we're thinking, how can we make the tempo hit?
Yeah.
And choreography, we're always thinking about, is this got the right pocket? Me and Greg do
Choreography-
dodgy dancing in the
choreography.
studio. Like, does this work? Yeah.
Yeah, choreography is a really important element as well. So that
Yeah,
that's
can they
something-
dance to it and like make us
Exactly. Is it gonna
catchy
make you
dance to
move?
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. So the genre is based more on a business model than like a tempo or a feeling of the music.
Well, I think the song's always going to be important, right? So it's got to be catchy. You've got to have.
But I mean, in terms of like the label of it,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not so much.
But maybe
based-
it's like where the music ends up, right? Because you might think of like a single, and you know, I can remember there was a period of time where Radio 1, they would play a bit of the chorus before they played the tune.
Yeah.
you know, and things like that. And then you said something about K-pop where you were like, oh, it's how it's going to go down live. Like this is going to be the bit with the glow sticks. And
Exactly.
Stuff like that,
Yeah.
you know?
No, it's so true. So
yeah,
true.
yeah. So it's like
Absolutely.
maybe where the tune's going to end up.
Yeah.
You know. like-
So
Because if I asked you what UK pop is or American pop, right? You'd say, okay, Billboard's predominantly hip hop, and then you've got your Taylor Swift, you've got your people like that. K-pop embodies all of that.
Everything.
That is the genre.
yeah, that's what I'm.
Do you know what I mean?
That's what I'm sort of getting at. Like, obviously, we have all these subcategories
Yeah.
and stuff like that, but it's more of a like a label for the business.
So exactly,
Yeah.
it's a broader term.
Yeah. So like,
Yeah.
I couldn't turn around and say I'm gonna be the star of a K-pop record.
Yeah.
Because I don't have the facilities to be able to pull that off.
I don't know, mate.
But like-
Teach you a
Well-
few, Hayden can teach you a few moves.
But like, you know, but I could turn around and say, you know, I'm gonna make a 90s New York sounding album.
exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's interesting because it's like, the only reason why I wanted to say it, because I think it'd be good to get it out there, because whenever K-pop comes off in a conversation, especially when I talk to people about it outside of the industry, like there's no knowledge of what it actually means and
Yeah.
what it actually is. Like they don't can't. It's not like they say, "Oh, that's hip hop,"
Yeah.
or "That's this," or "That's that." That's what. So that's what I wanted to talk about. But that's it. That's interesting. So it is like more of like a broad like label for the industry rather than like a particular genre in itself.
I mean, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
That's how I see it, because the genres are so wide.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the bigger elements as well is that in these groups there is 6 or 7 members.
Yeah.
So those genre mashes or those bits of excitement need to be there, because it needs to sustain over those members. You need to have a part for this member. 3 of them might be incredible singers. You might have 2 rappers in there. So that's where it gets its flavour, you know, because you've got to find space for all of these people.
There's, and you might not want to answer it, so I'll give you freedom. But there's been some negative sort of like aspects of K-pop like come out in the past about like how the artists are treated and like how they're you know, like almost like forced to be a certain way and like everything is structured. Have you guys personally like experienced any of that?
Not personally experienced.
no.
I mean, they
Seen
definitely
how hard they work.
Yeah, they definitely work hard, but like I liken it to, you know, if you're a kid playing for Tottenham, right, or if you're in a YTS scheme trying to make it as a footballer, you got to train.
Yeah.
You got to constantly train. You got to play. You got to make your way to the top, and it's no different from. I don't think it's much different there from what they did with, say, the X Factor. Like they'll live in a house, they'll go to choreography, they'll go to this, they'll go to that. It's constant. It's a long process that they go through, because some of them, the trainees are like 4 years, 6 years. They can start at 12, they can start at 13, and then they get ready to debut. So there's a long process of trying to get them to that stage.
That's a really interesting way of putting it, actually, like relating it to like a football academy or like a
because
footballer.
people want to be superstars. It's not easy, right?
But when you look at it from like an artistic point of view, I feel like people have like a bit more of a
I don't know. Yeah, I think you've hit on something, which is where we just accept things in certain industries because we know that like to be very successful is brutal.
Yeah.
Like people say like, oh, you know, he's in an academy and you know he could make it. It's like the vast majority of players don't make it. You just don't. You know,
Exactly.
and you've dedicated your life,
everything,
and then you find out you're 17, 18. Sorry, son. Like, it's, you know, you go out on loan, and like it happened to everyone knows that guy that it happened to.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
like you know, so but we just sort of accept that. Whereas on other things, it's like with all like actors.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly,
for every
yeah.
superstar, everyone knows like a broke actor who's like, you know, working in behind the bar.
On their last paycheck or whatever, on
Right?
their last
So
dollar.
it's like, I think it's it's a good way of looking at it. Is like, if you're trying to be at the very, very, very top, it's going to be brutal, isn't it?
It takes
Like anything.
sacrifice.
100%.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I agree that I do agree. I feel like the music industry maybe sort of idolizes you know, a creative, like, you know, you watch all these stories, it's not like a military camp to success. It's more like they just created great music, got fucked up.
Yeah,
Do you know
but
what I mean? Like that.
everyone-
They don't.
But
The music industry is not painted out to be like that.
But
No, it's not.
Ramira was talking about, Ramira Abraham is like a great vocal producer. She was saying that like Chapel Rowan got dropped years ago.
Oh, mate, I can imagine,
Sabrina
yeah.
Carpenter's on her 6th album. I was like, I don't follow pop in
Yeah.
that way. So I was like, I had no idea. But it's like, you just see the success.
Yeah,
You know, and it's like, I thought Sabrina Carpenter was like 19
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
Like, that was her first
Yeah,
single.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, no.
100%.
She's on album number 6,
100%.
different images,
Yeah.
different approach. Yes, like.
I get it all the time. Like you get friends come up to you and be like, "Oh, you're so lucky to do what you do." And I hate that word "lucky" because they're only seeing exactly that, like the stuff you post on social media or whatever. They're not seeing the weeks away from your family, the travelling, or the amount of no's you get, and you have to build yourself back up again to do it. So it's like it's frustrating from that.
Yeah, the
perspective.
confidence that you
Yeah.
need, especially to keep progressing in the music industry, is, you know, a serious thing.
I mean, if anyone out there wants to get into music, you gotta be tough.
You gotta be tough.
You gotta
Really tough,
sacrifice. You got to sacrifice your time and your money. Like there's friends of ours that were really talented musically, but they've fallen into jobs because they needed to pay their bills, or they wasn't ready to sacrifice. You know, if you're young and you can stay at home and try and get your career up and running while you're living at your mum and dad's, by all means do it. Because when you start moving out and you've got to pay your bills, that really limits you, doesn't it?
Yeah, but the work rate is, you know, I think a lot of people do underestimate it.
Yes.
Just how much dedication you need, and like consistency. Like even just from my side of things, it's
Well,
like
I mean,
I never stopped. Do you know what I mean? Like it was constant, especially when I was like at that relentless thing. I was doing like 3 sessions a day. You know, be there at the studio at 9, wouldn't leave until like 4 in the morning. 2 hours sleep, do the same thing again. Did that for like my entire 20s. Do you know what I mean? And you know, and then you might get some little bit of success and respect out of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the thing is as well, it's like it's cutthroat. There's no loyalty. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
so
no.
you got to really make it. You got to make your own. That's what I always say. You got to like create
100%.
your own structure and have your own, you know, defined lines.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But
And you get some people that are lucky, right? Some people are Lionel Messi. They're just naturally talented. They have a big hit at 20, you know, and then just cut. I mean, not saying someone's, you know, a musical example. Let's say someone like, I mean, Ed Sheeran had his struggles, but like since he's gone, he's flown, right? He hasn't had to look back. He hasn't had to compromise on his sound or change his sound. Calvin Harris, the same thing. As soon as he went, he's just up there at the top.
Yeah, but obviously these guys all put their time and effort in, like 100%. They had to. Like Ed was, you know, busking on the streets for years and years and years, sleeping on everyone's sofas for 5-6 years.
But what I'm saying is the talent, right? So their talent's a very, very high bar of talent.
It was always going to go clear.
You had to hard work, but there's people who have got a mid-level of talent. But if you raise
He's
up
not
your
going to run out of songs.
No, but if you raise up your work ethic, you can still be successful. You know. I think there's
that's really interesting, to be fair, and it's a very good point. It's good for people to sort of understand that as well. But you know,
I mean, you guys have had like these different, sort of talks about these different phases of career. You know, when things were going good, and then the industry changes. You know, people aren't buying vinyl anymore, or you know, UK garage is turning into kind of grime. It didn't really happen. Now people think it happened like that, but it was a bit more messy than that. You know? But how did the K-pop thing just feels like now? That feels like your identity. That's what you do. What was the first job, or was it? How did it come about? And what was the learning curve of like, oh, okay, this is amazing, or oh, don't know about this, or
was it like a conscious decision?
It was just. I felt it was just natural, really, wasn't it? Like we were banging our heads together, like, what do we do next? Like, we've done this, where do we go from here? And then one of our friends, good songwriter called Andrew Jackson, he had some success there, and he showed us these songs and these videos, and we were just like, what is this?
Blew our mind,
What is this? Like, I think it was like a Girls' Generation song that changed tempo, and it was all over the place, and it was amazing. And we were like, this is great. Like, this got our juices flowing again. Like, we were like, this could be wicked. Like, we want some of this. So we just made this decision to be like, right, let's connect with people. Let's try and find the people we need to meet. And we got invited out to songwriting camp in Sweden, was it?
Yeah, Sweden. Yeah, it was our first K-pop camp.
And that just helped us like understand, right, this is what the labels look for. And we met some really good people there. And from that, we got invited out to Korea. And then once you're out there and you absorb it, and you go to the shows and you realise, wow, this is a culture.
And you can lock into it.
Okay, so you did go out there, because I know a songwriter, a K-pop songwriter, Lena Smith, and she's been out to Korea now.
So just start that quick, because when you're touching it, when you're speaking.
Oh, is that audible? Sorry, So because that's interesting. So she went out to Korea quite early on then, because I know someone, Lena Smith. So she's a K-pop songwriter, and you know she's done like Top Liner stuff, and she's been to Korea now, but for the longest time everything was just Audiomovers,
online,
remote, you know, and like Zoom calls and stuff like that. Yeah. But so for you guys, it was quite early on. Was that like we need to, you know?
Well, going back to what Hayden said, like our friend showed us, it was like the UK scene was a bit thin on the ground.
Yeah.
And it was like, there's not really anyone to write for. There's not many people to pitch for here. Like, you know, other than those X Factor groups and stuff like that.
When was this?
This was probably 2012 or 13.
Right, okay.
Yeah. I think we'd just come back from like a
so
LA
10
trip.
years ago.
Yeah, and we were like frustrated. We were like, this is so political. We'd been in some circles and we were like, this is so political. Like, we've seen it now. This is how it works. And we were like...
But you had a big hit 2012, because 2012 is Chris Brown.
Yeah, Chris Brown.
So on the one hand, you're flying high, but on the other hand...
But that's the other thing, right? So you get that record and you think, okay, this is going to change everything. We're going to fly. We're going to do this and the other. It's still just as tough.
Yep.
And I don't know if we needed to, like... We've never had a manager. We've always done stuff ourselves. So maybe that's something that we could have you know, that might have had a different path or something like that. But
helped you get some leads, sort of thing.
yeah, exactly, yeah. But we just thought, okay, well, that stuff's going to kick on now, and it just wasn't enough to go for. And all of a sudden, you're trying to pitch in the dark. You're trying to send a record to Beyonce or to Rihanna. You know, we've done songwriting camps with Rihanna and seen loads of amazing writers there and that. And then at the end, you're just like, don't get nothing out of it. And I've like really worked hard for that.
And I guess you would have thought at the time, after having some success with a Chris Brown record, that like, oh shit, this is us. We're good. Like, well,
So they're going to let you like just pitch a finished song or something rather than work with loads of other writers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like Hayden said,
like
it goes back to politics. Sometimes they've got their own writers. Sometimes they've got their own publishing teams.
Do we own their publishing?
It's true.
Oh, we'll take that song instead. That's all it is. That's how it is, isn't it? Cutthroat.
It can be. It can be. It's
majority,
very.
and that's why we was just like, this K-pop thing just seemed like...
It was just frustrating. It was just frustrating. And our friend was like doing this, that had a couple of success with K-pop, and he was like, I'm sending it to this guy, I'm getting a placement, we're getting paid, like it's a growing scene, blah blah blah. So he was like, oh, let's try it. And we literally went to that one thing in Sweden, did 3 days there. I think we did 4 songs, and 2 of them got cut instantly. And bear in mind, at that point, we're pitching for months to get a placement. And we did that one trip and got 2 placements. So we're like, oh, fucking hell.
So on one end. You can swear.
For people who might not know like the terminology, so when you say 2 placements, what exactly does that look like?
So basically, like they want 2 of our records on the artist. So a cut, we say a cut would be getting a song on the artist's album, basically. So we got 2 records placed with an artist at their label. And then they was like, can you come out to Korea? So we was like, yeah, of course we can. And then
Let me check the diary, yeah.
And that can be that can be like, again, for people who don't know, that can be quite difficult with Western artists because frequently the album's already carved up because people have deals where they're like, I get 3 songs, you know, this person gets 2 songs.
Yes, exactly.
And then they've got, this is going to be the single. And then so... Yeah, if you don't have those connections, you can't. Even you might make an amazing tune, you're just not going to get on the album.
Exactly,
because they don't want a 20-track album.
Well, the deal's already been made.
Yeah.
What you know, when it comes to like moving away from like the business side of things a little bit, like when it comes to making K-pop, like what's the inspiration behind it? Like how do you sit down there and you go, okay, like what do you reach for? What's the first instrument? Do you listen to anything?
I think it depends on the artist, doesn't it? Now we're quite dialed into the artists and how they sound and what they've done. The record label will always give us a loose brief. They'll be like, we're looking for hip hop records. It might be they want something like Kid Laroi, or, you know, whoever's popping at the time maybe. But they don't want it. They don't want that. It's just a loose brief, you know. That's just an idea of tempo, soundscaping and stuff like that. So a lot of times we'll start from that place in terms of BPM, and then we just, like, you know, what Hayden said before, just throw paint at the canvas and see what sounds striking. A lot of the time we try and find like a signature sound within the first kind of like opening bars of the song to kind of get your attention, and that's been something that's served us really well over the years.
100%. First 5 seconds, like the...
But what really got us noticed out there was the first... We was trying to do what they wanted with the leads, right? So when we did these couple of camps, they was like, this is what we're after. And we made a few songs like that, and we was just like, these ain't great, are they? And then one night we just stayed and made a garage track.
Right.
We just did it just because we was vibing with another songwriter. And then that happened to be like one of the first big singles we got, because they was like, what is this?
They loved it.
They wasn't looking for that at all, and because it was so natural to us, it just really came together well.
Well, it's always going to be great.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you guys are making garage. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. So I think part of it is just being true to your own sound and not trying to chase something. It is just trying to, if you like it and you're vibing with it, just go with your gut a little bit and experiment. And that's kind of what we try and do, really. Like a lead or a brief is one thing, but you got to make it your own and you got to be feeling it.
Well, you guys obviously have you're very dialed in and you're able to sort of like take apart a song and its elements and then recreate it, because like with the song that we worked on, like when I heard it, obviously I won't talk about it, but when I heard it, I was like, it sounds exactly, I know exactly what this is meant to sound like.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, and you know, you say you're producing garage or, you know, even K-pop, I wouldn't have even put it in any of those
Categories.
So like, it's very interesting. Like what sort of like was that a skill set that you had to build and learn to be able to produce stuff like that? And you know, what are you leaning into if you need to make something that's slightly out of your comfort zone? Are you reaching for samples, or do you guys play instruments? Like, what's the process?
It's a great question, because like we're kind of like dialed into, going back to the second part of the question first, is instrument wise, we play the piano, not great, but we can play it, and we always get ideas down, and we'll get people in to kind of play the guitars or whatever it is from that. But we're able to make these records that we're not been able to make, so like R&B, some hip hop. Like, we've got amazing rappers that we work with, and that allows us to make these style of records. And like, can you remind me of the first part of the question?
So the sort of like, when you're making these records that are like not necessarily like your
style,
your style, like how do you tap into that? Like, and are you playing or sampling and stuff like that?
Well, this
a
is
bit
where
of both, really, isn't it? Yeah,
like,
a bit of both. Sometimes it might start from like a drum loop. Sometimes it could be. I mean, sometimes we'll grab a splice loop, but then by the end of with making the track, the splice loop is out of it. Do you know what I mean? It's just, it might just give you a bit of a feeling.
The inspiration.
Yeah, the inspiration.
Right,
It might give you a little. Yeah,
that's interesting.
And then, or sometimes we keep it in there. You know, there's no shame in it. People, it's first come, first serve with a lot of that stuff. So
it's something that I've been trying to practice quite a lot recently. Is like pushing myself out of my comfort zone and making records that like, I wouldn't normally make. And I think it's a skill set in itself, being able to like pick apart a genre and find out, like, you know, what are its core elements and stuff. Because I mean, the reason why I really started doing it is because I got sent an Piano record and I mixed it, so it was a good mix, but I mixed it wrong. Like, it did not sound like Piano.
Gotcha.
I sent it. I'm like, I'm proud of this. I think it sounds great. And they come back and they're like, bro, like, what the hell? So then I'm like, oh, I need to check myself here.
And what was that? Was that to do with like the weight of it, or
like,
the feel of it?
Yeah, like I put the kicks like up. You know, it was like Afro swing level kick. And Piano, if you listen to it, it doesn't really have the kicks. The snare and the shakers are much more dominant than the kick.
Got you.
Right, okay.
And it's all about the log drum that like creates that low end. Yeah. It's not the kick.
So interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Different
and
genres.
so I'm like, you know, I'm used to mixing like drill and you know, Afro swing and stuff like that. So the kick's always like got to be the main thing. And then it's like, dude, what have you done? And so that's where I'm like, okay, I've been spending a lot of time like rethinking stuff, and I never just assume anything anymore. Because that was my mistake. I just got the record.
Well, it was like what you said earlier before we started recording about how K-pop mixes are totally different to hip-hop mixes.
It's so true.
Everyone's got a different sound they want to achieve with it, and a different. Some people like a lot of low end. Some people don't like any low end on pop mixes.
And you've got to do the research as well.
You have to. Like you were saying earlier, like for us, if we make a hip hop song, I always go back to when like Stargate made like Black and Yellow. I'm like, how can we make it Stargate radio? We always want to add that pop element to it, where it's hitting across all platforms, not just like it's so hip hop that it's like true to the culture. We're more like, oh, this is going to be played to teenagers through their phone.
And sometimes that's adding like a garage bass into it, or something to make it house. Do you know what I mean? But it's still like, we've had records like that just, or they'll switch up. They'll start off, you know, 808s, and then they'll flip into like a house beat or something.
I think like Skrillex has been a big inspiration for us for like learning to be confident, to be like, you can just add, as you say, a garage bass into like a hip hop song or something,
or a pop song.
Or a pop song.
Like if you look at the Skrillex produced stuff that he's done for like Ed Sheeran, for example, it still sounds like him. So it's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's true. And it like, even on that record that we did, it was like there's elements of that record that I was like, this, I know exactly what this is meant to be, but it's still doing its own thing. One of the things that stuck out was the bass choice. I was like, that's very cool.
Interesting.
It's interesting and it's cool, and it changed as well. Like there was 2 different basses, if I remember rightly, and it was a good development, and I really enjoyed mixing it. To be fair, I hope it
no, it came out great.
I hope
fingers crossed for that one.
It gets placed, to be fair, because it is a really good song. Going a little bit more on like the technical, do you both use the same DAW?
Yeah.
That's Logic.
Yeah.
Right, okay. And have you always used Logic?
I started using Qube East in college, actually.
Yeah, same.
What version, Greg?
Give away my age, maybe that one, don't know.
They still they had to have the USB dongle and that.
Qube East for a long time, and then another guy I was working with back then, he was using Logic, so I just kind of, because I was using his studio a lot, I then kind of just had to do it. You know, it wasn't really, I didn't have a laptop at that time, so it was all like, you know, you go with whatever they've got, you use.
Yeah. That's interesting. And so you stuck with Logic ever since.
Stuck with Logic since.
I feel like production, especially in the UK, is Logic really. Like,
yeah,
there's obviously, if you're doing a bit more like drill and hip hop, people lean into Fruity Loops. Have you ever dived into Fruity Loops or?
I used to, at the
or
start.
FL? Sorry, that's
you
my
used
age.
used FL Studio a little bit, didn't you?
Yeah, that was good.
We tried Ableton for a little bit, but it felt really complicated. I think it's so, you know what it is?
Something new, innit?
It's so difficult to dive into something else when you've got so much knowledge of one thing, and I think it's time consuming as well.
And we like to have everything in one project. So we
Yeah.
just love the recording vocals to the beat into Logic, whereas Pro Tools, I feel I'd never really dialed into Pro Tools, but making a beat on Pro Tools seems like a headache to me. Don't know why.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right on that.
It's not set up for
It's
making
not,
beats.
It's not. It wasn't built like
But
that.
all of
Our
those
friend
DAWs,
Devon would argue differently.
Yeah,
but,
true.
Really?
But yeah.
He makes all of his music on Pro Tools, and I don't know why.
I do think they all have a sound though.
100%.
I do think all the DAWs have a different sound.
Oh, they do. Yeah. They
And-
do.
and
And,
they
that's
work
one.
well
That's
with-
one of the things I actually don't like about Logic.
Yeah.
Because I prefer the Pro Tools engine. Like, I prefer the sound.
Yeah.
I think Logic sounds a little bit too like, it's a bit round.
Yeah.
And candy.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. You know, it doesn't give me this like polish to
Yeah.
it. And then, you know, you go on the other side, like FL's super
Raw.
and dark.
Yeah.
So they're getting those sounds. But I suppose for something like for pop, I think Logic probably leans into that. It's a good sounding engine for
I
pop.
think Logic, Cubase, and Pro Tools are probably the people that are making most pop, right? Ableton's more dance, EDM, and then FL is probably your hip hop and trap.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd imagine.
yeah.
That's how I view it anyway. Maybe other people
yeah.
will tell me different, but
Well, yeah, I
From
don't
my
know
experience.
whether to say this or not, but I just remember you could get Fruity Loops for free quite easily.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that was
yeah.
Everyone had it. Everyone had it.
that was the thing. Yeah.
I got given a Dell laptop at school because I was dyslexic, and my brother just took it straight off me and put Fruity Loops. That's how I got into music.
Really?
Yeah. Because and he nicked these like Esky sounds from somewhere. So I was like, mate, if I still had those, I'd.
Also,
Mate, awesome. But
when the first thing you do is like, it's a drum sequencer, right? And there's a
Yeah.
drum machine in there with an 808. So the first
Yes.
thing you do is make an 808 skittering hi-hat. You know, like that's the first thing you do.
yeah, well, it was. I was just trying to make grime back then. But
And it's
badly,
like,
and I
boom,
don't
boom,
even
boom.
think I knew that it was even 140. I was probably making it at like the stock 120 that you open it up.
Yeah,
at.
change the tempos.
Nah, mate, I was like basic as hell. Like it was only when I was like playing the guitar and wanted to learn how to record myself that I actually like ended up getting any sort of knowledge on it. But talking of plugins, what's at the moment your go-to like production based, I guess? Because I mean, do you guys try to do a bit of mixing or?
we do. Yeah, I mean, we mix as we produce, so
Right.
we don't necessarily do the final product, but we always try and get it to like a, you know, again, if you want to get your songs placed, they need to sound great.
Yeah.
So we always try and get them to sound as good as we can get them.
And then if that fails, we just whack on God Particle.
That's what I was
And
going
we're
to
mix
ask you.
engineers again.
What's the
It
bus outfit? You know what I mean?
It changes.
changes,
We've been
man.
using God Particle for a master for a little bit now, but before that we would use Ozone.
Mate,
Before
God
that,
Particle's great. I
Yeah.
use God Particle.
Yeah.
What was the one before that? T-Rex. We used to use that.
T-Rex, yeah, Ozone,
Yeah.
and then at
Do
one
you-
stage
do
it
you
was like
mix into
L2
God
and stuff.
Particle, or do you just stick it on at the end?
I put it on the end. He uses it from the start, which really annoys me.
You should.
Really,
That's what it's designed to do.
I don't like it.
Yeah,
I
mix
feel-
into a limiter, right?
Yeah, you're supposed to mix into the limiter, because otherwise you
Mm.
do all of this mixing and then you whack it on and you just destroy all the transients and.
But don't you feel
Yeah,
like I
mush
feel like
stuff,
if I
yeah.
create with it, then like when I if the balance feels off because you can't tell when you how the balance is.
But your final master's gonna have a limiter on it, regardless. So, and if you get it sounding right
Good
with
in
the
that,
limiter,
what's
then
it
you're
matter?
right, because it has to have a limiter on it. It's always gonna have a limiter on it.
All right, go your way then.
What's,
in
what's the
future.
deal with that though? Then when we need to like the stem it, do we keep the God Particle on?
You just give you your rough mix.
But then
and then-
that's my point. Then your rough mix sounds all over the place because the limiter's brought everything
No,
up.
no. You keep it with the limiter on, and you send it to the engineer. If your engineer's good enough, they'll know how to
So
achieve
you print
that.
with God Particle 1 or something like that, right?
No. I just print a rough
Yeah.
with it.
Ah, okay.
The stems won't have it.
Just a guide mix.
Yeah, and then I might say, the rough has, black box and God particle on it.
Got you.
Right, because then the engineer. I mean, I don't ever do that because it's always me. But like, if I did, the engineer would know what to do. And if someone did that for me, I'd be like, "Oh, mate,
Yeah.
thank you."
Okay,
so
that's
now I
interesting.
know how you got this sound.
How you got it,
Yeah. Because that's a thing. Like when we were speaking to Matt Sim, he was
gonna
saying,
say, yeah.
there's particular things they use.
The FL Studio limiter, which has a certain sound,
Yeah.
and so if you get that demo mix,
Yeah.
and then you get the stems, which are not going to be as loud. Well, he's got to replicate.
And he
you
refused
know,
to tell us.
Yeah, he's got his own secret FL Studio limiter kind of.
And he wouldn't
okay.
tell us,
Like,
even
It's
when the
definitely a
cameras
stock
are
one.
on.
He's just
Well,
bullshitting
No, I think he's like
He's refined
a
it.
few
You can
guys
open
have
FL
sat
Studio
there.
as a plugin in Ableton Live.
Rewire now, yeah,
Yeah.
you can do that. You can rewire.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of guys that have done it. Like, if you do want that sound, like
Interesting.
the knock, the clipper on knock sounds a lot like the FL.
Clipper.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they always give them a certain subtle name, don't they? To kind of, it's like sort of like
Yeah.
Like, what's it called?
Orange
What's
clip.
Orange clip. There you
And to
go.
be honest, most of like the
I was trying to beat around the bush.
Orange clip. Sorry,
Just
Ryan.
outing them.
most sample these days have got so much on them. So if like a drum loop off splice is so overly done already, it's like you're almost going to overdo it if you put anything on it. So you just leave it on the
Oh,
channel.
mate, well
Yeah.
said. I couldn't
Yeah.
agree more. Because I'll do that if I'm mixing with the client in the room. Sometimes I feel like
You got
they
the
think
sound
I'm like taking a piss because I ain't even put nothing on it.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you're not EQing and I'm like, dude, let's spin EQ to shit. It
been
sounds
great,
great.
it's great,
Like, You know
yeah.
what I mean? It's only if I feel like it needs it.
Yeah.
But my drums,
I can
a lot
imagine
of
a lot
it's
of
bass
your
stuff.
I can imagine like 90%, or not 90%, but I imagine a lot of it's like negative EQM, right, for mixing, for the stuff you receive.
Yeah, for the instrumental, it's all mostly subtractive.
Yeah.
I don't really add anything unless
Yeah.
it's like a guitar sample and I want it to be a bit brighter or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But like all of the adding to it comes from like saturation
Mm.
that I'll use like Black Box or Skepta or something like that to like pull things out, and get that aggression because it's like I'll get your rough mix.
Do you like
and
the
listen to it.
Soundsware stuff?
Yeah, some of the stuff sounds. Yeah,
we
some
use
of the stuff
we use a
sounds
lot
nice.
of Soundsware stuff at the moment.
What's the Alter Boy? Is that
Alter Boy is
yeah,
great.
that's
Yeah, we
great.
use that on instruments or vocals. That's really good for like
creating like a harmony pitch or
harmony
something like
layer.
that,
Yeah, or you can mess with a formant, so you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
change stuff
Yeah,
like
that's
that,
fun.
which is cool. The saturator is pretty good in there as well. To use
The
that.
drive function.
Yeah, the drive's pretty cool. And then
Decapitator's always good.
yeah, I mean to be
There's
honest,
loads. My problem is like my brain goes like 100 miles per hour. So when I'm creating, I'm like, oh, I ain't got time to start messing around. Even like saving channel strips that I like, my brain doesn't go there because I just want to create. So it's like plugins like, for example, the God Particle or I just describing Knock. These are great because they're one plugins that you can just put on and you can create.
Does the
and
job,
then like we get it to a level where it's cool, right? It's ready for like a vocal. We can get like the vocal sounding pretty good, but now we're at that stage where it's like we want to take it to that next step, and understanding how
To really help sell the record.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
the end of the day, the market is so oversaturated. You've got to stand out, haven't you? You have to stand
Yeah.
out.
You need to be able to press play and it beat that whatever played before it.
Exactly,
Like, it has
yeah.
to.
Exactly.
And that's why obviously the loudness war just like gets even worse. 'Cause
It does.
I'm printing my masters at like -7, -6 LUFS, which
Yeah.
is just like
a lot.
stupidly loud.
Yeah.
But if you're not, then you're not competing.
Yeah.
And obviously,
Yeah.
once it gets on like streaming services, no one hears the difference.
Yeah.
But
Of
like to get it like where they want it, but then you get all these other issues because depending on what they're playing it back on, because -6 sounds great out of a pair of fucking nice speakers, but you play -6 out of a phone that hasn't had any sort of like codec or limiting on it, it starts to sound a little bit rough. Like you're pushing that speaker too much. Like you can't take -6.
Yeah,
so then they're like, oh, there's this distortion coming out, and I'm like, yeah, because you listen to it on an iPhone, it's at -6. Like it's fine, it's loud, bro. Like, but you know,
I think that, like you can go all day with it, right? There's always new stuff coming out, and there's always stuff that you stick to. But I think like whatever you're good at and whatever you've got a skill set in using, and it sounds good for you, then that works. You know, because we use a lot of Logic stock stuff as well. You know, I use the channel EQ all the time. I use some of the compressors. I just feel like they're easy, they're quick, they don't take up much CPU, and they get the job done. Especially if you like Hayden with workflow and stuff like that. It's only when you need to transfer that to a mix or to make it a little bit more. I mean, half the time Hayden just copies all channel strips from Jason Joshua's mix and masters and stuff like
he's
that.
the man.
It is right, Greg, because I copied exactly the same.
25
It's exactly the same.
NLS.
Right.
yeah.
It's copyright.
Screenshotted. Like,
What's the NLS bus? I think you got like 13 LLS bus things.
Yeah, he said it works.
There's another there's a technique that I think would work well for you actually that he spoke about, and he creates his effects channels and makes a template.
Right,
so you say, oh, I'm creating and I don't want to have the time to do it. If you create an effect that's really cool that you like, save it as a preset and then put it in your template, and then it's always there.
We do use that like, for like reverbs and delays and stuff, you mean?
Yeah, he does it for everything.
Oh, really?
Like, he has reverbs, delays, like ways of doing stutters, you know, distortion effects, pitch effects, like everything, and then it's all there. So then if he feels like, oh, there's a moment in the song that he can improve it on, because he understands that mixing sometimes isn't enough to sell it to the client. You need to be a producer as well, and like add this extra spice to it.
Bit of comping in there and stuff like that.
Yeah,
as well.
exactly. Yeah, so he has all of this stuff like laid out, and it's something that I've put into it as well, because it helps just that creative flow. You don't even need to think about it. You're just like, oh, I have the track right there. Just drop it in there. It sounds great.
We've had I think Jason did a mix for us on a song we did with Nathan Sykes, and he replaced our kick drum completely.
Yeah, he's known for that.
Yeah, and we was just like, that sounds amazing. What's he done there?
Well, at first we were like, our kick is really good, isn't it?
We didn't even notice, did we? We were just like, it's an amazing mix.
We A and B'd it, so it was like, that's definitely not our kick.
Yeah.
He gave everyone, because he did a seminar here, and he gave everyone those kicks that he uses, didn't he?
Oh, really?
Yeah,
He's just got set frequencies and stuff.
I got Matt to sneak me in, and
we did a thing, a mix with the Masters, big up mix with the Masters, and and he did that. What was it? It was Ed Sheeran and Stormzy tune.
Yeah. He did a few tunes, but that one obviously was the most relevant because it was, you know, UK based.
It's UK, and it's actually, and when he broke it down, because he's on the drums for ages, you know, at the start, and the drums are so huge. Like, actually, I was like, if you took out the melody, this would be like a really dark tune. It's like so big. So
and he was saying that Ed won't accept anything less than 6 LUFS and stuff like that, and that's what it's like. Yeah, okay, cool. We got to go real loud, because if he's saying that, and to me, I would have thought Ed would be like all about dynamics and just keeping it moving. But like, he was like, it's got to be 6. So, but I don't know. Let me give you a little quick fire round. So,
but actually, because we were talking about effects and stuff like that, sorry to cut you off. But but what's your sort of go-to synths? Like, if you're opening up a session, what you do, absynth, massive? What's the first thing you're opening up where you're like, I know I'll get some ideas out of this, like.
What do you use?
Probably Serum's the most. It used to be like Sylenth for ages and ages, and then Serum come out and just. I pretty much use that the whole time. Now.
Yeah, we get a little bit bored. I think we change them all the time. I think Serum's really great because obviously you can just load your presets if you want a certain sound. But I like. It's obviously like the Juno stuff. The Juno plugins are really good if you want a kind of warmer analog sound.
Sort of 106 style.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the Diva also like is a UHE. Diva by UHE. That's really good.
I was just at ADC and they're really cool, man. Yeah.
That's really cool. And then we use Anna 2's cool. That's got some really good synths in it.
Oh, Anna 2, who makes that? That's Slate. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've seen that.
The Slate stuff's pretty cool.
I've had that, but I don't think I've actually ever opened it. But
there's so many now. Like, I'm on Instagram.
We've been going back a little bit, haven't we? We've recently got like the old like Cool Triton and stuff. Like, we've been going back a bit to like older stuff, the Roland 2080, like stuff that that we
Just
used to
get
use
bored,
to
didn't you?
use.
You
Yeah,
just-
so we're just trying to find some different.
Yeah.
Do you
Again,
use hardware at all, or is it
not
everything?
anymore.
Not
No,
anymore, no.
no, it's all in the box. Even like our processing, we've got a Neumann mic and we've got an Avalon preamp for our vocals, but we still run that through like the Neve and stuff on the UAD,
Right.
Right.
and a couple of
I suppose it makes it easier because if you guys are working as separate and then together,
Yeah.
like, you need to just be able to, like, you can't have any of that stuff getting in the way. Do you
Yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean?
Exactly.
And it
Yeah,
will get in the way.
Yeah. And you've got the
Especially
MIDI
those recalls.
information.
Yeah.
You're saying if you're working fast,
Yeah.
you've got the MIDI. You could put a different sound in, couldn't you? You
Yeah.
could take
This
stuff
is it,
out.
exactly.
Yeah.
We do speak about getting a bit of a keyboard collection. To some studios we go to, and we're a bit jealous of their keyboard collection. We're like, oh, we should probably do that.
You need
But
a
then
Moog
Patching
sub.
that up. would just
Yeah,
be
you know,
yeah.
like you can
They're
do it.
wicked.
Yeah,
And they're just good bits to have.
The VST of that is, you used to have one, didn't you? And the VST one, I swear to God, he's pretty close.
it is pretty good.
It's pretty
It
close.
ain't as good,
But
but
there's
like,
something about that,
But if you
though,
can
and
al-
then you get an actual like bass sound out of it, and you
it's
hit
unbelievable.
it,
Or
it's
a
crazy.
Profit or something like
Yeah,
that. Some of them
yeah,
are
yeah.
But
incredible.
Debbie in Coventry ain't going to know the difference between like,
Big up Debbie.
software. Yeah,
That's
that's
true.
Debbie. One
That's
time.
true. I finally found a good Respace plugin because I was looking for one for ages, and it's called Respace on
No
Plugin
way.
Boutique.
Yeah,
It was dirt cheap as well, and I was like, because I was looking for it, I was mixing a song, and I was saying I always end up going enough, and I was like, this guy's like got no bass
Yeah.
line in this, like it needs a bass line here. So I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna play it and see if I can get away with it. So I found this Respace, and it was like perfect. Like,
Really?
literally, I was like, oh, finally. And it's not just, they've got loads of basses on there. It's a really good bass plugin, to be fair. But yeah, I was happy about that because I was trying for ages. I had all these Respace samples, trying to stretch them.
mate,
and-
we do the same
but,
thing.
yeah.
The amount of 808s we go through, and it'll be like they'll slap in one song, and then you put in another song, and it just doesn't hit.
Yeah,
and you're just
yeah.
like, why?
Yeah.
Like-
Well, it's a lot to do with like the tone and the tempo for an 808. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all about the decay. Like that's what like creates the sound. And some songs need like no decay, and some
Yeah.
songs
Yeah,
need
you're right,
massive
yeah.
decay. So otherwise, it doesn't work. Like if you get a drill song and you've used a short decay on a drill song, it's not going to sound very good.
Yeah,
Do you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like like a traditional sounding drill song. Anyway.
Yeah.
But let me give you this this quick fire round. So don't each give me an answer for if they're the same. It's fine. Don't overthink it. There's not that many, and just give me, your first answer. We already know the first one. So DAW,
Logic,
bass,
Serum,
Anna at the moment.
vocals,
Spirit,
Ooh, Valhalla and H delay
okay,
for processing.
genre,
UK Garage. Inside.
I'm making a lot of trap lately, actually.
yeah,
Yeah,
wow. I want to hear some
first
of your
thing that
tracks.
comes
Because he's
to
in
my
the
I
gym,
wanna hear
innit?
some of
He's in
your
the gym, isn't he? Giving it all.
Need something Larry. Yeah, yeah.
Their go-to studio snack.
Oh, great question. Protein bar.
studio snack. Chicken and rice, mate. Every day.
Chicken and rice.
Yeah.
Evening or day sessions.
Day, all day.
Day.
Right. Headphones.
Head audio.
See, that's my favourite head audio, yeah.
Speakers.
Key free.
Key free.
Right. Cool. Pretty good answers, to be fair. I'll give you that. Don't know about the protein bar as a studio snack. I'm not gonna
Too
lie.
healthy-
That's
way
a bit of
too
a-
healthy,
that's a
innit?
bit of a that's a bit of a shit snack.
Do you know
Well,
what?
it depends.
Do you know what it is? I think it's because we are doing day sessions. If we was going into like the night sessions, I think we get some munchies going.
Right.
But nowadays, like
Just want to get
we're
sponsored
dads,
by a grenade
so
bar,
we're just
really.
trying to do like
Yeah, it sounds more like you're in the gym, not bloody
Yeah.
chicken and rice and protein. Putting me to
creatures of habit.
Getting rid of the dad bod,
putting
you know?
me to shame
Yeah.
here, man. I'm there with my bloody barbecue hula hoops. And,
Begging, to be fair.
but yeah, that's great. So what's next for you guys? Like, what's on the horizon?
Wow.
Well, we've just got a publishing company. We set up a publishing company,
that's
Create
been going
Future. That's been going really well. We've got about
Oh, congratulations.
I saw that. I didn't know that was you guys. I thought you were signed to them, but that's you guys. That's
Yeah,
cool.
it's our publishing company. So we've got 7 writers there.
We
All-
love to we come across so much talent and we love to mentor. You know,
Yeah.
we love mentoring and helping people get their talents out and actually try and make a living out of music.
Is that why you started doing the sort of the beat breakdowns and stuff on your YouTube channel? Is
Yeah,
that
because
you
go
kinda-
back to the stuff with the Jason Joshua stuff. He's the only one, the guy that started sharing secrets. Everyone was like holding it in. What's the point? Like, how's the industry going to grow? How's the culture going to change if no one's sharing. Do you know
It's a lot
what I mean?
more open now, isn't it? I think there's, if anything,
Well, he
there's-
was the first one, aside from obviously his mentor,
Dave Pensado.
Dave Pensado
He
was
set
amazing, man.
he set the baseline
Yeah.
for it. But like, he was the first one that was doing like massive like current records and being like, it is this simple.
Yeah.
You know, like when I found out his drum chain, and I was like, and I gave it a go, and I was like, holy shit! Like, I need to charge like another £100 now for all my mixes because they're sounding different now.
Yeah.
You know what I
Sounding
mean?
great,
And it was
yeah.
like a 10-minute video.
Really?
You just listen to it.
It is
exact-
amazing.
But that's exactly it, isn't it? If you can help the next generation, like if I've got kids, like if someone could help my kid do that, I'm all for it, man.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of how you learnt to produce, wasn't it?
Yeah, just YouTube. I didn't go to college. I just sat on YouTube and watched,
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah,
remake
yeah, no,
everyone's
job, yeah.
songs.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then when you finally realise that,
And it was tough back in the day.
Yeah, because it was a lot.
There
There
wasn't
wasn't as much
a lot.
content. It was you had
Yeah.
to sit there and kind of find the ones that worked.
Yeah, I see videos now. I was like, and it was showing you how to do all like Jimi Hendrix guitar stuff.
Yeah, that's
And I was like, I can remember it was just one day you'd be like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's how you
figured
do
it out.
it.
Yeah,
And now
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like 10-second videos.
Yeah,
like,
it's so
just do it
Exactly
like
how
this.
to nail it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cheat codes. But yeah, aside from the publishing, obviously we still want to produce and write. We've got another trip to
Yeah.
Korea coming up end of the year. Some more writing camps. We're going to host a couple of writing camps in London next year.
Yeah.
And yeah, just hopefully get some more big records, grow the company and grow the sound.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's wicked. And the last question, unless you got any more,
No, I'm out.
I'll is, and I think you guys are going to have a good answer for this because you seem to care. But what advice would you give to these young guys and girls that are trying to like break in and become producers themselves?
For me, it's got to be collaboration and like going to meet people and not being afraid to like. Now is the perfect time more than ever to. You're accessible to everyone. You can reach out to the people that you might not have been able to get through, or you don't need a manager to connect the dots or something like that. Just collaborate. If you can find someone that you work with well and bounce off. Like us working in a duo, I don't think I'd be able to make music being on my own because I second guess everything. You find someone that's got different qualities to you and you can work well. That's for me. That's what's helped me flourish in music.
Yeah, I think find your sound wherever you're doing. Try and find your sound. I mean, when you're young, you don't really
Or
know.
for you guys, 10 sounds.
So 10 sounds,
You
yeah.
produced everything.
Yeah. But find something that gets you excited, you know, trust your gut and collaborate and find a circle of people that connect with your same, you know, goals and mentality. I think a lot of the time we try to reach out to like really big people, and with some of the sessions we've done with superstar writers haven't been our best sessions. Our best sessions have been with people like that are similar mindset to us, hungry young people or writers, and yeah, if you can get like a little circle yourself. I mean, it also translates to other people. Like if you look at like Timbaland and Missy, or you know other really good collaborators, Quincy, MJ. You know, if you can find someone you can really tap in with, I think you can really, that's where you can really win.
So get out there, get mingling,
Yeah,
connect. Yeah.
and don't
work
be
with
disheartened because it's a long road.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I do agree with that. I found a guy when I was younger, and that's how I really, us making music together, I really understood, like, oh God.
That ain't even it.
how I really started to like understand like my own way of making music. Do you know what I mean? Just because we just always connected, and if I was having a bad day, he'd be like, "Let's try this, and try that, and get you amped into it." Do you know what I mean? So
Me and Hayden,
definitely.
that's the same with me and Hayden. Like, if sometimes like, he'll make an idea he hates, and I'm like, hang on, wait a minute, go back to that part. Like, what if we just strip that away? So sometimes the collaboration can be really fruitful in terms of like, that nurturing and hearing it a way that you wouldn't.
Yeah.
And just getting all these experience with someone else, it's like it's amazing. Doing it on your own is great, but you've not got that experience to share with anyone.
Yeah,
so like the
yeah.
journeys we've been on together, it's like you look back and you think, thank God, like we had each other to do that. And we always say to people, like,
And if you make a banger and there's no one there to get gas,
Well,
do you know what I mean? It's a
Yeah,
little
exactly.
bit deflating.
it's like getting a hole in one on your own.
Yeah. It never happened.
Oh,
It
no
never
one's
happened.
there. Yeah.
100%.
Amazing. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on.
No,
Really
appreciate it.
appreciate it. That's been
Yeah.
a great chat. And we'll get you all your stuff linked below, so you guys at home can check it all out and check out some of the music. And on that note, which camera am I looking at?
That one.
This one. You guys have been watching or listening to the Audiomovers podcast, and we will catch you guys in the next one. Safe.
Nice one.
Sweet.
Thanks,
Cheers,
guys,
boys.
man. That was great.